Well everyone, it's time to go on another unboxing video, and just got this box in recently. Came all the way from the United Kingdom, as you can see right there, United Kingdom, Great Britain. And what is in here is some ERTL goodness that I recently won in an auction on eBay. And I'm really excited to get into this here. And interestingly, the box looks like it suffered quite a bit of damage on the way. It looks like it's almost open, but then again probably got knocked around quite a bit on its way over here to the States. But yeah, gonna go ahead and open this up and see what we got inside. You know, this is almost like Christmas. I'm one of those people sort of like do my own Christmas shopping, you know. And I tell you what, if somebody knocked this around the right way, they could actually break that tape pretty easily. But let's see what we got here. Oh, okay. Some of this has actually been double boxed, it looks like. Okay, so everything's unpacked here. You can see I got some ERTL structures, ERTL Track, a couple destinations. There's some Tomy stuff in here as well. Also got some engine characters in the ERTL range, rolling stock, and a couple ring-ins, I believe. But give me a second here. Try to organize this a little bit, make some sense of it. Okay, so I think I got everything organized and made some sense of this mess of stuff. But go ahead and show you here. Start off with, got this ERTL bridge here. I wasn't actually able to build the whole thing at the moment. Got some of the newer style ERTL track. You see, this is the track with the green road bed and the actual, you know, like track stickers and what have you. So got some switches, some straights, a bunch of curves. Got the ERTL water tower, but it doesn't have its base or the fill pipe. And over here got the Tidmouth Sheds with the turntable. All the track pieces are there. Also the level crossing from the branch line playset. Missing two of the gates, unfortunately. Got some of the gray track. There's a switch right here. A few curves, a couple straights. Also got some Tomy road in here. A couple small straights. I believe this might be like a stop piece. Bunch of curves. Quite a few long straights in here. And I'm guessing these are intersection pieces. That's what I'm going to call them. But yeah, I got two of those. I got a variety of ERTL engine characters and rolling stock. I'll just pan across here so you can see what all's there. We will take a closer look at these in a second, but just want to show you what's all here. Also got this little Terrence. This may be a Tomy thing, not sure. And over here in the middle, I believe all this is ring-ins. I don't think any of this is actually Thomas Friends stuff, much less ERTL or Tomy stuff. But those watching can tell me whether they are or not. So let's talk about the reason why I purchased this big bundle of ERTLs. And the main reason is for what you see on screen right now. What you're looking at are pieces from the Sodor Viaduct bridge playset that ERTL did. And this set was exclusive to the UK because after 2001, ERTLs were no longer available outside of the UK market. And this set was something I never thought I'd get my hands on. Basically because, you know, it was only available in the UK. And trying to get my hands on all these ERTL sets, this was the one I figured was out of my reach. But, I mean, I managed to get my hands on it, and unfortunately it's not complete. That's the sad part about it, but the main thing was the bridge here in the background, because the way I see it, the pieces that are missing, I can replace those easily, but the bridge, on the other hand, is harder to come by, because in the 3 years that I've been collecting ERTLs, I've only seen two of these pop up on eBay, one of them being this one right here. And I mean, just really happy to finally get my hands on this. And I mean, aside from the fact, you know, it's not complete, looks like there is some track damage on the bridge in these two spots right here, but everything else looks pretty good. And of course the set also came with Thomas and an old coach, and yes, one single old coach. But I want to move on to some of the other stuff I got in, but I want to come back to this afterwards and probably even go ahead and set it up for you guys and see what all is missing and what all still need to get for it. The next piece we'll look at in this bundle is the Tidmouth Sheds, and it also came with the turntable, which turns, obviously. And it's actually pretty good condition. Does have a little bit of play wear on it. Not too much, but stickers on it seem good. And the only damage I can see on this piece is that one of the clips here is broken off this track, but you know, it still goes together and it stays. And yeah, overall, it's not a bad little piece. And over here, I actually have the one from my collection. Mine's it's about the same condition. Does have a little bit of play wear on it. Thomas is just there to be there. But yeah, turntable on this still works. And yeah, so that's the Tidmouth Sheds from that bundle. The next ERTL destination in that bundle was the level crossing here. And this one's actually missing 2 of the crossing gates, but funny enough, I can fix that. And that basically makes that complete again. And just like the Tidmouth Sheds, this is the level crossing from my collection. I actually got this in the branch line play track, and you got the crossing gates and the signal lights to go with it. But yeah, kind of funny there. I actually had these crossing gates left over from another eBay purchase I made, but that worked out in the end, I guess. And the last ERTL destination in that bundle was this water tower, which, as I said before, unfortunately it's incomplete because it's missing the plastic base and the fill pipe that should be on it, which actually looks like what you see right there. And this one here's the one from my collection. I actually got mine in the water tower accessory set. You got a little bit of track with the water tower. The trains were not included, but it's one of those deals though. If this water tower is from the water tower accessory set, you know, it's missing quite a bit. But then again, it's not like I bought something new. That's obviously been used and probably had a lot of play in the meantime as well. I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking at this, but in terms of the gray ERTL track, in that bundle there were 3 curves, 1 switch, and 2 straights. And something I do notice is that these 2 curves here and the switch, they look more of like a yellowish gray, which leads me to believe that these possibly have been in the sun and they've been sun affected, because they're not the nice bright gray that you see here. I think you can see the comparison between those 2 pieces. But yeah, there's, you know, the gray track that was in the bundle, and I think we'll look at the characters next. So the first one to look at is this Thomas here, and ERTL calls this the Santa Thomas. And this would have came with a either red or gray toy box scruffy behind, but that's apparently MIA. But you can see it's pretty much just your normal ERTL Thomas with the Santa hat on it. And I don't have this in my collection, but what I can bring in to show you is this Christmas Thomas that ERTL did. And you can see they're pretty much the same thing, just this one has a snowplow, this one doesn't. And this one also has the snow detail on the top of it. But anyways, I mean, there's the Santa Thomas. Not much more I can say on this piece. The next one up is Ben, and unfortunately Bill is missing in action. But what I can do is bring in the Ben from my collection and show you. Mine is obviously in better condition. It looks a lot better. But then again, you know, this one here has obviously been played with. It's had a hard life, and needless to say, it's covered a lot more ground than what mine probably has. I'm sure of that, actually. But I mean, I'm telling you, it's just every time I do a video looking at these ERTL Thomas models, I'm taken back by the beauty of them. And it's just a shame that the ERTL range ended. And I mean, as much as I'd like to see it make a comeback these days, I mean, I don't think it would be a positive if it did. But yeah, there's Ben. We'll take a look at another ERTL. The next one we'll look at is Boko, and he would be a UK model because he's got the larger coupling on the front and the U-style coupling on the back, and this one's actually broken. What the hell, ERTL? I thought these couplings were supposed to be more robust. Well, either way, I think we busted that myth. And if I bring in the one from my collection, I also have one mint in the portrait packaging. Something I noticed here is that the trucks on the model are no longer open. You can see they're just one solid piece of plastic now. And I remember the Boko I had as a kid, these were actually a weak link in the model, because I know these broke really early in time when I got my model, and of course mine was heavily played with. There was not a speck of paint on it when I was a kid, but yeah, unfortunately I don't have that one anymore. But this one here, it does have paint chips. Boko's obviously been probably run into a couple walls, as you can see there. Normal paint chip. Stickers still look good. Like I said before, that coupling's broke, but overall, really nice ERTL model. Just the one goof ERTL made with this is they didn't give Boko the red buffer beams he was supposed to have. But other than that, you know, it's still a beautiful model nonetheless. The next one is Diesel, or as I call him, Devious Diesel, because I'm old-fashioned, we'll say. And he would be another UK model because, again, he's got the U-style couplings, and this one's actually in one piece. Got quite a bit of paint chipping. I don't think he's been ran into walls like Boko has been, but he's got some chipping on his face. Bottom looks good. And I'll bring in the one from my collection, which is not the UK model. And yeah, you can basically see how, you know, ERTL did the U-style couplings. Basically, the plastic that's used for the buffer beam just made a new piece of plastic with the new couplings on it. The die-cast castings and framework are all the same. But yeah, you can see they're face on mine honestly looks more devious. Maybe it's just the fact that this one's chipped. But yeah, there is Devious Diesel. And look at the next character, which will be our last engine. So the next one up is Dodge, and he doesn't look too bad. Does have a little bit of chipping on him around the face there and on the roof here and here, but overall I've seen far worse. And kind of interesting with Dodge is he's dated 1999, but it wasn't until 2000 the Magic Railroad stuff came out. Although you can't really go by the dates on the bottom of these to you know, get an idea on when they were manufactured. That's more or less something you got to look up on the packaging. But yeah, this is Dodge here, and I will bring in my model, which looks a lot better. Mine's, believe it or not, this one's actually used, but it doesn't show a lot of play. But yeah, you can see the differences. Not a lot of wear on mine, like I said, even though it is used. But yeah, it's just a little comparison for you guys. And you can see I do have splatter as well. But yeah, that's Dodge. And now we'll go ahead and move on to rolling stock. Well, the first one I'll show is Toad. No Mr. Oliver, however. And this model's not too bad. Not really any paint chipping on it. It does have play wear. I can see here the coupler, if you can see that. I don't know. It does have a little bit of plastic distress on there and is bent slightly. But I've actually got plans for this. I'm going to do some modifications to it. And I'll show you here the one from my collection. Again, in better condition, of course, because my models are pretty much more display pieces than anything else. I don't really play with them a lot. Notice the positioning of the eyes is a little different between the two. But yeah, so that's towed, and I might feature this one at a later date once I get the modifications done to it that I want to do. Next one up is Isabel, the auto coach, and this would be a UK exclusive because she was made in 2003. You can see she's got the U-style couplings, the bigger eyes, eye coupling basically, and really nice model. Love the lamp detail on this. Got the little bell right there, and just overall nice little model. Is plastic though, that's a downside to it. It's a shame ERTL only did certain pieces in die cast, but I'll bring in the Isabel from my collection. You can see the one I got in is a little more faded, I guess, than what mine is. Probably spent a bit of time outside, but not too bad. Tell you what, I'd be tempted to hang on to this Isabel, have another auto coach. I don't know. Probably just better off sticking with one. Oh boy. Next up is this Troublesome Truck, and boy do I have quite a few of them. But yeah, unfortunately just got a single Troublesome Truck. This one is missing the rear facing one that looks like this. But yep, looks very troublesome to me. Got the coal load there, and interestingly, this is the first one, I'm pretty sure this is the first one in my collection that's dated 2001 underneath. That all the other ones I have were dated 1990, but I know for sure they all weren't made during that time. Like I said before, you can't really go by the dates on the bottom of these to determine when they were made or when they were released, so on. That's information you gotta resort to the packaging to find out. But yeah, I'm really happy to have another one of these Troublesome Trucks. I don't know, do I have enough of these yet? I'll leave the audience to determine that. Well, the next one to look at is an interesting one, and it's the Defuse It gunpowder wagons. And I do have these in my collection. You can see at the back there, I got one set of them plus one single one. And yeah, it's a shame ERTL only produced two pieces of narrow gauge rolling stock, being these Defuse It wagons and the slate trucks. Unfortunately, they never did coaches and they never did brake fans. And me personally, I would have at least liked to have seen some coaches in the range, even if they didn't do anything else. But because of the fact they did such limited rolling stock for the narrow gauge line, leads me to basically, you know, look at these and think, add them to my collection so I have more narrow gauge rolling stock. But yeah, there's the Defuse It gunpowder wagons. And the last piece of rolling stock is Annie here. Unfortunately, Clarabelle is absent. But you can see this is another UK model because it's got the U-style coupler on it. And I do have Annie in my collection as well with Clarabelle, plus I also got the ones that came with the 1985 Thomas and Percy models, and I'll show you here mine versus the one I got in. And this one's obviously been outside a little bit, a little faded. It looks like the artwork on the side's still the same, and you can see how they transitioned to the new coupling system. Just a new piece of plastic underneath the carriage, but yeah, notice a little bit of sticker wear on Annie right there. But overall, nice little model. Again, it's a plastic carriage. I would have preferred to have seen something like this in die-cast, but oh well. This one here, I'm not sure whether to classify it as engines, rolling stock, or whatever, but it's the pump truck or pump trolley, depending what packaging you get it in. And it's got whoever that guy's supposed to be on it. And this has been played with, but something I noticed even with the one I had as a kid, that just the way it's painted and what have you, it seems to hide play wear quite easily. I mean, I can see there's a little bit of chipping on it, but it's kind of hard to tell unless you get in close looking at it. And I will bring in the one from my collection here, and you can possibly see mine is a little more fresh because, again, it's just a display piece, doesn't really get played with. But yeah, and a little interesting fact for some of you guys is this pump truck or pump trolley does run on HO scale track, for those of you that you know, maybe wanted to try that out. So the next one up is Georgie. Sorry about that, I'm referencing Mr. Conductor Fan 1406. But yeah, anyways, George here. This model's obviously been played with, and one place to really show signs of wear is these rollers here. The paint on them will be worn off, and actually these don't look too bad. A little bit of paint worn off on the edges there, you can see, but this one, I'd say this spent more time on the carpet than it did on the driveway. But yeah, and I'll bring in the one from my collection here, which again, all my stuff's in better condition. But yeah, personally I like George. Rather unique one. I'm kind of a fan of the old steam-powered equipment, steam-powered tractors and what have you, and George fits the bill. But yeah, there's George. There's your roller rink for you, you gullible little So here's Terrence, and right off the bat I can see he's missing his tracks. That's pretty obvious. And I remember as a kid I was always taking mine off because I didn't like the way it rolled. And funny enough, I never did lose them. I managed to keep track of them all those years. But I'd say the tracks going missing on these is a common thing. But other than that, the paint's actually pretty good. Just a couple chips here and there, but it's, you know, you put some tracks back on this thing, it'd look like almost a mint model. And I can see the exhaust pipe is a little bit bent, but hasn't been broken off. And I'll bring in the one from my collection, which looks a lot better because it's basically just a display piece. But it's another comparison for you guys to look at. And because I mean, there's another thing. You look at mine, it's got the glossy finish on the paint. And then you look at this one here, and it too has the glossy finish. So this one, I'd say, has not had that much play. And like I said, you put some tracks back on this, it look almost like a mint model. Alright, while we're on the topic of tracked vehicles, I think it'd be appropriate to look at Thumper next. And Thumper as a character has been debated in the Thomas fandom as to whether or not he's really a worthwhile character. I mean, me personally, he hasn't been seen since Season 5, so I think that probably answers your question. But anyways, this model, it's overall nice in my opinion. But the one thing I don't care for is the size of it. And I mean, if I bring in like Thomas, for example, here, you can see Thumper literally towers over Thomas. And I've said it once before, but scaling was not a strong point for ERTL. And I'll bring in my Thumper from my collection here, just as a little comparison. And another thing I guess people have complained about with this model is the face. They don't care for it. And I can see a little bit of a difference between this one and the one I have, but me personally, I don't have a problem with it. I think the face looks fine, but you know, that's just my opinion. But anyways, there's Thumper. So Elizabeth is the next one we'll take a look at, and this one's obviously had a bit of play. There's some paint chipping going on. The dump bed is missing, and I can see one of the tires is off the rims here, but that's easily fixable. And I'll bring in the one from my collection to show you. And you can see this is the dump bed that goes on the back. It's got an opening end gate or tailgate, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, this one here has actually been spoken for by Eddie. He wants me to take this and convert it into Isabella from Jack in the Pack. So that'll be the future for this model, and being that nothing is here on the back, I'll have to make a custom flatbed to put on this. But yep, that'll be a nice little project. Last one up is the crane, and I've always liked this piece. You know, you look at it, it's so different, and it was a background piece in the series a lot, and background pieces are something you don't see a lot these days being made in the toy line. But this one here, the crane arm doesn't seem to ratchet like it used to. So it's obviously been played with quite a bit. Not a lot on the bottom there. And I'll show you the one from my collection as well. A lot cleaner, better condition. This one was actually used though. It's not a new model. And you can see mine still has the ratcheting crane arm. But anyways, there's the crane, and I wonder if this is still seen in the series today. Probably not. Well, unfortunately, I feel like this video is starting to drag out a little too long, and that being the case, I think I'm going to push looking at all this stuff over to another video, and I want to do a dedicated video to this ERTL Sodor Bridge Viaduct playset. So what I'm going to do is cut the video here, and I will have links to the other videos in the video description as well as on this video, so you guys can go ahead and head over there, watch those, and catch up on looking at the rest of this. But that's going to be it for now. I want to thank everyone for watching. Take care, and I will see you soon.